Let's begin a discussion on iron within our soils and how iron may affect plants in terms of deficiency symptoms. So the functions of iron in plants are threefold. All right. So iron is definitely involved in electron transfer and redox reactions within plants themselves. And that's because iron can be altered from the iron 3 to the iron 2 state via electrons, as well as due to redox reactions. So it plays a role in both of these. Iron plays a role in chlorophyll synthesis. So this should tell you something about what you might see in terms of a deficiency. And I show you a picture in the top right-hand corner. We'll talk about that in this unit. So because iron plays a role in chlorophyll synthesis, when we have low iron availability, chlorophyll production is reduced, and it leads to characteristic interveinal chlorosis or yellowing, which is what you see in the picture. We're going to talk about this in more detail very shortly. Interveinal chlorosis is when the veins are still green and in between the veins is chlorotic. Iron also plays a major role in nitrogenase enzyme activity. And that enzyme activity is essential for nitrogen-fixing rhizobia. We talked about rhizobia earlier in the semester. And if you recall, when you cut open a gall that contains rhizobia on leguminous plants, that pinkish reddish hue is called leg hemoglobin. Heme, which means iron, and iron provides that color that you see in this picture. And if you remember from our discussion earlier in the semester, that leg hemoglobin looks almost identical to hemoglobin in our blood. And so we are actually relatively close to being microorganisms. We're giant walking blobs of microorganisms, essentially. Let's talk about the forms taken up by plants. So we talked about the functions. Now we'll talk about the forms. Plants can absorb iron 2 and iron 3. Under waterlogged conditions, iron 2 dominates, and under well-drained, well-aerated conditions, iron 3 dominates. Now we know we grow most of our plants under well-aerated conditions. Under waterlogged conditions, most of our plants do not like to live because they're waterlogged and there's not oxygen in the root zone for the plant roots to respire. Yet iron 2 dominates. And iron 2 has a much greater availability for plants than iron 3. It's orders of magnitude greater. Unfortunately, we don't grow our plants under waterlogged conditions. So plants have to figure out ways to overcome a reduction in the terms of seeing iron in our soils, because iron 3 is prevalent in our soils. And we're going to talk about how plants overcome this issue in this unit.